welcome everybody to Dumb Marks After Dark. We were all four here a second ago. I don't know what happened to Steve. How's everybody doing tonight?
I'm fine.
Everybody watch Rampage?
Yep.
All right.
Watching it now.
I think JR would have said it best that business just picked up.
Did it really?
There you are, man. What happened?
Well, you know, that's what happens when you work on a 7-year-old laptop. Little technical difficulties, but speaking of 7-year returns, CM Punk is back in professional wrestling.
Yay.
You guys are such fucking haters. It's unbelievable. This is how we're starting off the show.
I was never a CM Punk fan, so
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a great segment. This is the second episode of Rampage. I enjoyed the second episode of Rampage just as much as I enjoyed the first.
Jay, I agree with you. I wasn't the CM Punk stan that everybody else was, you know, while he was in the WWE. Yeah. Respected him and everything he was in the ring and on the mic and everything else. He just was never my guy. CM Punk. Yeah. So, you know, with all that being said, though, like, I mean, there hasn't been a pop like that. You know, as Tommy Dreamer said, and I tweeted out as well, that the Road Warrior pop will now be known as the Punk pop going forward, because that ovation was something that I've never heard in pro wrestling before.
I love that he referenced Britt Baker's ovation in Pittsburgh too.
Yep.
I did like that. I did like that.
She got a great reaction last week, both nights, you know, on Dynamite and Rampage, and you know, I guess that's the one thing that sometimes WWE doesn't always do. Sometimes they treat the hometown person, you know, like shit, more than like giving them their pop.
Well, my thing is that the only other time that I can remember getting chills. Now, we were live with Britt in the arena and all that, and
yeah,
the energy and everything else. It was a different feel being there live. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't get the goosebumps and chills that I did sitting and watching Punk come out tonight. And the only other time besides tonight that I can remember getting that type of reaction, you know, the goosebump holy shit moment, was when AJ debuted at the Rumble, because it was something that you thought you'd never ever see, was him in the WWE. For a lot of people, I think that we've got to the point where, yeah, CM Punk chants were still going on, but I think for the most part, a lot of people over the last couple of years kind of just grown to accept the fact that no matter how much they asked for it, he just was not going to be returning to pro wrestling. And then AEW comes out, and you know, the revolution, the alternative, the pro wrestling, not sports entertainment, which I think he referenced in his promo tonight. You know, he said in 2005, I quit pro wrestling, talking about leaving Ring of Honor. And then he went to WWE and did sports entertainment. And tonight he said, I came back to pro wrestling. So with all that being said, does this change? I mean, is this a game changer, having him back?
No.
How is it not a game changer?
For AEW, yes. Off of tonight, off of what they were able to do, getting their largest crowd ever in Chicago. You know, we'll see the long-term effects of this. If this is going to be consistent, or if they revert after, you know, the initial shock wears off, if they go back to like their normal crowd size or not. But this has potential to be a game changer for AEW.
For me, just as wrestling in general, it was an exciting moment. It wasn't expecting him to come back to wrestling ever again and all that stuff. So the pop, yeah, it was great and all that. But my personal feeling, it's been 7 years. To me, his time has passed. I moved on to other people. So I don't need him in here. If you want to mentor the young talent, like you said, that he want to, work with the young talent, okay, that's cool. But everything else, I don't need. I moved on from him long time ago.
All right, we'll come back to that young talent because that's where I kind of want to go and get into this whole thing based off of that first segment and what we see going forward. But Jay, you were the one shaking your head. No, you don't think it's a game changer. And if I was, if we were in a court of law and I asked you to present your defense,
Chris just said it. He said potential. So we're there, right? That right there, not a game changer. Potential to be, not a game changer.
Him showing up
ever sit there after it happens. You can't ever really sit there and say that's the moment things change. You have to wait and kind of see how it plays out to know if it is.
That's not true because when Hall walked down the stands and cut that promo in WCW, that was a game-changing moment. You can point to that moment and say that's a game-changing moment.
Yes, that was.
Could you point to that then though? Like that night, did you sit there and say this is a game-changing moment for WCW?
Absolutely,
I believe it was. Yeah,
see,
absolutely.
I didn't even know about for months after it.
Yeah, I believe it was because back then, for our age, we didn't know about anything about contracts and that stuff. So it was a shock seeing Razor Ramon on WCW. Like, hey, what is he doing there?
Yeah.
No, I mean if that moment happens today, given social media and everything else and all that, like, are you able to pull it off the same way you did? Probably not. Like, this was the worst kept secret in pro wrestling with CM Punk coming back tonight, right? The worst kept secret. Everybody knew he was coming back, but yet, even though you knew it was going to happen, the moment was still there.
Mm-hmm.
Like it didn't take away from that. Sometimes it's like, you could do your swerves and lights out and surprises and everything else, but sometimes with certain people, when you just give the fans what they want, the moment is going to be right. And tonight was one of those times where the fans finally got what they wanted after 7+ years. The moment was right. I mean, the emotion that he had just standing, and dropping down to his knees at the top of that ramp, like that was real. That was real emotion.
Yeah.
None of that was like,
that was pure.
There was no, oh, this is my character and I'm acting and I'm portraying this like that. You could tell that was real life emotion because honestly, I don't think he ever thought he would step back into a pro wrestling ring. And you could go back and you could.
He probably didn't think so at all.
Right, you can go back and you can listen to all the interviews he did and everything else and all that. I think for him, because they tried getting him right out the gate, right? Like they pressed hard. We saw that whenever he signed up to do Conrad's thing that they did with All In, and that they were trying to get him back then. But I think for him, he wanted to see where it went and wanted to see how it played out to know, okay, is it truly something that is different and is an alternative? And once he saw that and seen what they've been able to do and probably talked to a ton of the boys in the back and everything else to get the lay of the land in the field, it was now was the time for him to come back and do it. So
I think now was absolutely the right time for him to come back. Just getting back into fans and everything. Because we talked how many people debuted in AEW last year during the pandemic, and without fans, what was really worth it?
Yeah, I mean, right. So, like, AEW, for the most part, everybody that they've brought in that's been a surprise, they've done it as your typical surprise debut, right? Mm-hmm. Brody and Matt Hardy were on the same show debuting, The swerve was Brody was leading the Dark Order and not Matt Hardy. You know what I mean? We just saw 6-7 weeks ago with Malachi Black, with Tommy End. Like, again, surprise, wasn't expecting it. Lights out, lights on. He's there in the ring, Andrade was rumored to be going to AEW, but it was still a surprise when you saw him. Same thing with Miro, was rumored to be in AEW, but when he came out, it was surprising to see him. This is just, to me, this is different. Now, can they follow up on it and carry the ball and run with it, like you said, Chris? That will play out over time. But as far as looking at it in a vacuum, as far as the moment itself, to me, I could say right now that it was a game-changing moment.
This reminds me a lot of whenever Kurt Angle went to TNA. That's kind of how this is coming off to me. You know, TNA was a great company for a few years, and there were eyes on the product, but they needed somebody to kind of help bring more eyes, and I think that's what CM Punk's going to be there for.
Now, the numbers tonight obviously are going to be insane through the roof as far as ratings go and everything else. Wednesday night, first Dynamite, ratings probably be, again, through the roof and everything else. But like you said, 2, 4, 6, 8 months from now, a year from now, what did you go and what did you do with it? And Donald, that's why I want to circle back to your point. Him referencing the young talent in the back and wanting to work with those guys because he wished that he had somebody there to work with him the way that he wants to work with that young talent. This is a hell of a statement for what not only AEW thinks of Darby, but what CM Punk thinks of Darby. To have him be Punk's first match in over 7+ years, like a lot to say for a dude that's 24, 25 years old.
Yeah,
6, I think. Darby's in his mid-20s.
Yeah, I mean he's slowly becoming the face of AEW.
So it'll be interesting to see, all out how much of the crowd, because that's face versus face, right? And we know face versus face matches don't tend to go well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're very hard to do. Do you have like the Hogan Rock-esque where it's the crowd was just so much behind Hogan that like the Rock had to work heel in the match, like there was no Rock was not going to be the babyface in that match no matter what they did. Like it was the crowd was just that hot for Hogan as the babyface.
Yeah.
To me, that's kind of what I see playing out at All Out is that they're going to be so hot for Punk. And Darby will have his people there too because, again, like you said, I mean,
he's over with the crowd.
Over wrestlers there is right now in AEW. So that watching that dynamic play out in the ring will be very interesting to see how that plays out moving forward. But
I think that match you can just appreciate the match.
Yeah.
And not,
it'll be more like how Finn and AJ was when AJ had to come up from South America and all that stuff.
Okay.
Like that face on face type deal. And they appreciated the match for what it was.
Won't be much of a story. It'll be more just two guys going out there.
Yeah.
And it'll just be like, it's almost like, I'm trying to equate it to something. Like not obviously knocking off the ring rust, but just letting him get back in there, get acclimated to being in the ring and everything else. You know what I mean? But just appreciating, like, again, this is something that a lot of people never thought they would see again. So enjoy it for what it's gonna be. Darby losing this match does nothing to hurt Darby. So if Darby loses, it's not an automatic, okay, Darby screwed, or it's not an automatic, oh, Punk won't put the young kids over. Like, no, just take it for just, like you said, Jay, just being a match for a match to enjoy it. And then after that, then you can see where it goes story-wise in that. But besides Darby, and Punk's going to be over as a face for
a while,
foreseeable future, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be the Punk tour for a bit.
So that young talent there, and they have a lot of it. Who do you see him going into matchup wise, after Darby? Where would you like to see him go if you're looking, young talent wise? Who's on your list for Punk to work?
I think him and that Dan Garcia could have something.
He had a good showing against Moxley. Against Moxley tonight.
Yeah.
Like, listen, I tweeted this out while we were watching the show. I'm like, all right, it's an hour show. Punk's already taken up 20 minutes. 25 minutes of this show, and rightfully so. Like, let that moment breathe. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, well, whose segment's getting cut? Whose time's getting cut? And unfortunately, Jade and Kiera got it cut, and Moxley and Garcia got their time cut too. So
I can't imagine Jade and Kiara would have gotten a whole lot of time anyways. But
no, but they would have gotten more than the 90 seconds to 2 minutes that they got.
Yeah, you definitely would have got more out of Moxley and Garcia too.
Right. So, like, I get it, but that's what happens when you have an hour show. You take out time for entrances, time for commercials. You're not left with a whole lot of bell-to-bell time. So when you have stuff that goes long, everybody else is rushing to get stuff done. But
if it was another quick show, it went I feel like that hour goes by really quick, and it will continue to.
Dude, I looked up.
I love it.
I looked up and it was 10:40, and I'm like, Jesus, like where did 40 minutes go?
Yeah.
But okay, so you say Garcia.
I like Starks. I think Starks will be good. Back and forth on the mic too.
Yeah.
That's a really good call there. Really good call there.
And that'll be a good heel too. Garcia's playing a heel right now, but I'm not invested in him as a heel. Where I'm invested as Starks as a heel.
Yeah. And he'll play it up with the crowd too.
Mm-hmm.
How long before you put him in there with MJF? Because that's your top heel.
That should be your first big feud.
You want that to be the first big?
You go
feud?
right to it.
The first big one. I'll let you do some matches to get your feet wet, and then that's your first big feud. Yeah.
Where do you let him fight at?
Like timeline wise, when would you like? What would you build that to?
Oh, that would be. This would be another forever type thing where they're just picking away.
Would you put that, say, like Double or Nothing next year, or is that too soon? You're talking like
that's in May.
There, yeah.
That's
I'd
early.
be okay with there. I think Full Gear would be way too soon, and probably what's the one in February?
Revolution.
I was thinking that, but the one I think Double or Nothing might be your bigger. Put on your show,
especially since that's one of your two big pay-per-views.
Yeah, I'd be okay if it happened at Double or Nothing. I wouldn't feel it's rushed if it happens there.
Yeah, no.
I like Starks. Starks to me is the perfect foil for Punk, because on the mic wise, he won't get lost in that sauce.
Mm-mm.
So, not saying that he'll out promo Punk, but he'll be able to carry a stick, and that goes back to a lot of his time being with NWA and having that show revolve so much around talking. It's one of the reasons why Eddie Kingston got as over as he did, because of being able to talk. Like, you can talk. So Starks to me, perfect one to go with. I just don't know who, like, he's gonna get a run at the strap at some point, right? Like,
here comes Donald's moment.
But is he the guy to be the one to take it off of Omega?
No. That's for Hangman and only Hangman to do.
Would you be okay with him taking it off at Hangman?
No.
Depends where they take it off of him at.
It depends on how long Hangman holds onto the title for me.
Like, if Hangman comes back and gets the title at Full Gear, Punk doesn't get it at Revolution. If Punk gets the title next year at All Out, okay, that's a decent reign for Hangman.
And so far, I mean, heavyweight championship wise, and even now tag team title wise, since the Young Bucks took it, but AEW has done long title reigns so far.
Yeah.
They haven't played hot potato with the belt, which quite frankly is a breath of fresh air, because discounting Roman's run with it, that to me can diminish the title too. So being so new and having people like Moxley, Jericho, and Omega, be your champs and carry it for as long as they have helps establish that belt. It's just going to be interesting to see where they go, what he wants to do. You know what I mean? There's a lot of creative freedom there with wrestlers and all that. And like I said, it goes back to me being not somewhat shocked that he chose Darby, because obviously they asked for his input on who he wanted to come back and fight first. I don't think they went to him and go, "Hey, you're fighting Darby first," and that's going to be it. Like, I think he had say as far as who he wants to get in the ring with right off the bat. I just don't. I don't know how guys. Whenever everybody's going to be clamoring for you to have a run with the title, and how they balance that act.
And it's going to be weird too, because if everybody wants him to run with the title, as soon as Daniel Bryan show up, they're going to be like, "Hey, I want him to run with the title too."
Now, so Jericho, even though Jericho had the belt to begin with, which was the right call. Like, you're a brand new company, you needed somebody with name value to have that be your first champion. Jericho was the perfect person for that. But if you look at what Jericho's done, I mean, Jericho's built up a ton of young talent and gotten people over. I mean, you look at what he did with MJF, right? Just finished up with MJF. You look at what he did with Orange Cassidy. He had a match or two with Jungle Boy that helped, move Jungle Boy along, and Jungle Boy, since that time, he played out well with Cody. He had that match with Kenny, and he's fucking over to the moon again. We saw again tonight. I thought the crowd was going to be completely dead after Punk, right? Just spent, no emotion at all. Jungle Boy's music hits, and they're right back into it. So that, to me, was a very good sign to show, okay, Jungle Boy is he's a definite player. Like, not anytime soon because of his age and all that, but to get that crowd right back into it when his music hit, that's like, to me, that's a sign of, you're over with the fans.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you would have had, somebody else come out in that spot, it would have been, because you saw Private Party came out first and there was nothing. No. There was no booze, there was nothing, right? Like, they were spent out of it. And then as soon as Jungle Boy's music hit, right back into it, singing, chanting with the song and everything else.
It kept the emotion going. And again, it's that hour show, and it's able to keep that going for that short period of time. I mean, last week in Pittsburgh, we did it the whole night. Like, people were talking about how great Dark was this week because of how into the crowd was for it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it carries out well. It plays well time wise. So, all right. Anything else on Punk's return? But anything about the promo? Any dislikes from the promo? I mean, hell, when you get a reaction just for sitting down in a ring the way that he got, it's like, Jesus.
People just wanted it. They were ready for the return. I love that he's giving away ice cream bars at the end of the night too.
I mean,
and that's a legit shoot. They really give away ice cream bars. So I think the AEW ice cream bars will be hitting the shelves at some point in time soon.
Hopefully they taste better than the WWE ones.
I'm
not trying to give a knock on it. They were just awful. The new ones.
Like, I don't imagine a louder pop than what he got tonight. And there's been some good ones in recent memory. Like I said, AJ's at the Rumble was huge. Mm-hmm. That one was the first time I got true goosebump feelings in a really long time. Edge's return at the Rumble was a huge pop. Yeah. And Cena coming back for the Summer of Cena was a huge pop. But
I think Bryan will get a huge pop in New York, but I don't think it's going to top Punk in Chicago.
See, that's going to be a little bit different because that's an outdoor venue, so you're not going to get that sound. You know what I mean? Like the sound coming off that building and coming back down. Mm-hmm. That makes it louder too. When you're outside, the reverb from the sound hitting the build, like that doesn't come back down into play. So
I think it does have a roof that they can put on it, but we'll see if that helps with it once they're there.
And then plus, that's not Daniel's hometown. So.
right.
Someone like the ice cream bar, the old WWF ice cream bar.
Yeah, the new ones.
The new ones are terrible.
Yeah.
Big Herdo, the new ones are trash.
They're good.
Yeah, they are.
They're
not
good.
No, they're trash.
Here we go with slander.
Trash.
No, they're
Not-
trash. They're not
good.
good.
They
Bad
didn't even-
cookie, bad like such generic ice cream inside, and
Yeah, they
They're
didn't even
good
put it
plain
on the.
ice cream bars,
They didn't even put it on the stick. They just made little squares. They didn't even put it on the stick, bro.
and they're good. They just melt in your mouth. They're good.
That's what she said, but that's a different topic.
And they cost too much.
They do cost too much, but they're
what is
good.
it, like $6 for a 4-pack?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
We're just hating just to hate now. They're good.
it wasn't, the WWF ones were good.
It's true.
The WWE ones are not.
It's absolutely true. No doubt, no doubt. All right, so nothing else on Punk. I mean, well, like he's back all out. God knows what the pay-per-view buys are going to be for that now because yeah. So, the rest of the show itself, fast-paced, quick hitting. You know, was what it was for the night. Obviously, Punk stole the night. With
It
what
was
he
a tag
did.
match.
I like
Tag match was great.
Tag match, yeah. Tag match was good.
They worked really well with each other. I was, you know, again, so like the build to this pay-per-view hasn't really been a true build to a pay-per-view, right? Like we've got match announcements here and there. At least they're giving us a little bit of a build for the tag team belts. I think we'll see the rematch with Jurassic Express in the cage with the Young Bucks. Although, you know, having them run that back with the Lucha Brothers is what I actually want to see myself, just because of how much of a Lucha Brothers guy I am.
Is it time to take the belts off of the Young Bucks?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like if they put Jurassic Express in there or Lucha Brothers, I don't know how you have the Young Bucks walk out with the belts again. That's just two tag teams that deserve it.
Now, here's a little interesting note, and I don't know if Ian's caught this or not, but on Twitter, so Jay White tweeted that he's in Chicago. Tama Tonga and Gorillas of Destiny showed up at the end of Resurgence to confront the Good Brothers. Do you keep the belts on Omega and the Bucks and run the Bullet Club versus the Elite? We're having this Forbidden Door, and we're having this cross-promotional talent come in. Do you think that's the better play?
You don't need the belts on them for that to be a good storyline.
Okay.
If they were the champs, which I don't know, even know if they are. I know Jay White's the never champ, but I don't know if the Gorillas of Destiny have anything right now. Maybe then I could see, champs versus champs, but I think Bullet Club versus the Elite's what sells it. You don't need the titles factored in.
Now, are we still rumored to get this War of the Worlds pay-per-view? Because that's where I feel like all this shit is going.
Yeah, was it Champion of Champions or something like that?
I know they
It was something like that.
They trademarked something with world in it. I don't know if it was War of the Worlds or something, but yeah.
We've had they said we were supposed to start getting quarterly TNT specials, and that was how many months ago they announced it, and we haven't had one yet. And I think that's where we'll probably get these. Because they said think of it more like a Clash of Champions.
Right.
So we're building up to All Out. Maybe we'll see one in between All Out and Full Gear. We'll see the first one.
Who do you want to win? Jurassic Express or I don't. Lucha Brothers are going to be Varsity Blondes. Like that's
Yeah.
you know.
I'm okay with either one. whoever wins, I'm happy with going into that match.
Do the Young Bucks have to drop the belt at All Out?
I think so.
I think they do.
Like, is that stale to where it's like, all right, we need to win here?
For me, it is. Way so.
But if Omega's still the champ, then what do you do with that story?
The Good Brothers are still champs, right?
Yeah. But they don't have all the gold in AEW.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you spin off of that?
I don't know. Kenny now doesn't have the Impact title. You know, it looks like we're probably going to see him drop the AAA title at some point down the road.
So speaking of that, at Triple Mania last weekend, Omega was going to drop the belt to Andrade, but plans changed. I guess Tony Khan and AEW didn't want him to lose the belt in back-to-back nights. Didn't want him to look weak by dropping two titles in back-to-back nights. So they made the change to keep it on Omega. And I don't know when their next show is scheduled for.
I don't know if they've announced. They usually have one before the end of the year. Was that I forget what they call it. I don't know if that's the King of Kings show. But was it Reinas de Reinas, or how do they pronounce that?
It may be. I'm not sure. But yeah, so interesting. We'll see. What'd you guys think of Dynamite on Wednesday?
Didn't watch it yet.
I have to think
Busy
back what
week.
happened.
Do you care if we talk about it on the show, Jay?
Oh, no, go ahead. I didn't watch SmackDown either, so.
Hey, listen, don't worry. You don't even waste your time.
I'm gonna watch both tonight, but yeah.
Don't even waste your time on that. We'll cover SummerSlam and NXT tomorrow on Bell to Bell. So tune in at 11 a.m. for that on the regular edition of the Dunmarks podcast. That'll be our Bell to Bell section tomorrow. Get you guys all squared away for those pay-per-views Saturday night and Sunday night, giving our predictions for that. But Dynamite to me on Wednesday was a big swing and a miss. I just didn't. I didn't like the show at all. I didn't like how they started the show. I get it. It built up to tonight's main event, but it was just first three segments and you had three run-ins and people get beat up during their entrances. It just was like we're doing the same thing over and over again. It makes no sense.
I'm honestly trying to remember what happened. It just happened Wednesday, and I forgot already.
I didn't hate the show. Like the past 2 weeks, I didn't enjoy Dynamite. So this week, I actually enjoyed it a little bit better. But 2 weeks in a row, I've also enjoyed Rampage more than I've enjoyed Dynamite.
Well, again, that's that hour format.
It's quick.
Yeah.
But no, I mean the wrestling on the show was fine. Like the wrestling was fine. It was just a lot of stuff were misses for me. Like I said, they had the first three matches. There was people attacking their entrances. Promo wise, just placement. Like there was just stuff. It just didn't hit for me on Wednesday night. Now the matches themselves, I enjoyed a lot. So Jay, you know how you say all you need are the matches. You don't need the stories.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it was for me on Wednesday night. Like the matches was better than what they gave me storyline wise and everything else. I
feel like they really rushed this the Inner Circle versus the Pinnacle just to end. Like did you really have to have Sammy Guevara and Shawn Spears wrap up their feud the same night you had MJF and Chris Jericho?
Yeah, because it's old. For me, it's old.
Like,
well, I mean,
what do you have planned for them at the pay-per-view in 2 weeks? You couldn't just held it off for that.
But you're getting FTR and Proud and Powerful at the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So,
they haven't announced it yet. I'm actually thinking they're going to hold off for that till New York City.
They might with Santana and Ortiz being from New York. That wouldn't be a bad call.
There hasn't been an official announcement yet. They've been doing like the promos. Yeah, something tells me they're going to hold off on that for for New York.
So was the cage match Hager and Wardlow's last bout?
Oh, that UFC thing.
Yep.
But is that where they wrapped it up, or
Looks
is there
like
a
it.
No, that was it for them too.
Okay.
Yep, that was it for them too. Spears and Guevara on Wednesday night was really good.
Mhm.
Really good match.
Man, you got to look to know the outcome.
I mean, I get Sammy was in his hometown. That's cool. You know, he had a good match for it, but
Spears never won anything over Sammy, so what would you expect? Anything different?
No, but they did a good job with false finishes in that match to get you to think that you know that Spears was actually going to pull it out, and he looked strong too coming out of it because of what he kicked out of before he actually lost. So, you know, the build up to the finish there was good for me. Young Bucks and Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, everything from that match was great until the ending. I hated the finish of that match.
what was the ending?
The run-ins,
The run-ins.
Omega, then Cage, then the Good Brothers, Nakazawa, like the whole 9 yards, and then
Then they bought Christian in, and Callis got his kicks in on Christian.
Mhm.
We complain about that every week.
The only thing I did like about that finish was I like the callback to the chair from the previous week, but the Young Bucks kicking out of it and not losing it. So Omega brought the chair down, gave it to the Bucks. Again, guys, if you constantly do something that ties the referee up for 45 seconds to a minute without him noticing some shenanigans are going on, you're making your referees look dumb as fuck. And they did it again during that match.
Not as dumb as the ref at Triple Mania in the main event whenever the ref completely saw the belt on the ground. Kenny hit the one-winged angel, and then after the match was over, Kenny tossed the belt out there. Like, the ref saw it. He didn't need to toss it out. Like, he blatantly saw it. Like, there was no hiding it.
You can't. I mean, the referees in AEW struggle enough because they, you know, I don't know if they're not on the same page and not know what's going on with the guys and the matches or what. But I mean, the referees, Bully Ray harps on this all the time in AEW. Like, they do a terrible job of making their referees look strong. They make them look like the dumbest guys in the room. I mean, that's how
to loop them in the story whenever they need to call it like actual refs.
Right. So yeah, so that spot killed it for me. You know, match was really good. I enjoyed the rest of that match.
So is this certain that you run this back at All Out?
Run that back.
Them and Jungle Boy?
I think so.
Jurassic Express?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's time. Like I think it's time. You let Jungle Boy get a belt.
Yeah.
You know,
finally
they'll be over. Like I think
the brothers deserve that belt just as much.
They do. I thought they had before.
They do too, but if you're looking storyline wise, and
they're in it with Andrade.
They're in that with Andrade, and we want to see how that plays out. So, like,
yeah, a loss for them could help play out the story better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah,
but whoever goes in, either team, again, I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
And then MJF and Jericho, I thought was really good storytelling. Really enjoyed the match.
And the best part is they continued it on to tonight with not having Jericho at the booth. That was, instead of having him just come out there and just be like, "Oh, I'm sucking it up," but you know, I'm hurt, but I'm sucking it up for the night.
Nope. He put on Instagram that he was going to take some time, do some soul searching in that, and I know Fozzie's getting ready to start touring here soon. You know, but yeah, that's a great continuation to have him not on commentary tonight. It just
And I'm okay with it because I didn't really care for him on commentary last week watching it back.
Yeah, I mean, besides that, but it's nice to see that those little things, and they, sometimes they swing and miss on that, but those are the little things that you need to pay attention to that don't, slap your fans in the face. Seeing somebody, take a devastating loss after a 6-week, 7-week feud, direct feud, not to mention it's been, majority of this year feud. with MJF and have him right back on commentary calling matches like nothing happened. It's nice to see that they carried that over to tonight. But that match, the storytelling was, like I said, storytelling wise in that match was really great. MJF putting over the younger guy. I mean, MJF is built up to, he was already the biggest heel in the company just because everybody hates him. But, you turn on Cody, you cost Cody, now he can't challenge for a title. You take out Jericho, the next biggest fan favorite, and you one up him. And I thought the ending was a nice touch with him, Jericho stopping whenever he was going to hit the Judas effect because he, would get disqualified for it, and MJF hitting him with the Judas effect to pick up the win, I thought was a nice touch there on the finish. So wrestling wise, Wednesday night was great for me. Storyline wise, just I didn't get into it Wednesday night.
The biggest miss for me on Wednesday was just getting the actual match announcement of Paul White versus QT.
Oh man,
I don't need that match. That doesn't add to the pay-per-view. No one's paying for that pay-per-view to see Big Show and QT.
No, but if you need a piss break in a 5-hour pay-per-view, that's a good spot. Right?
That's a good one.
I don't need it either, but I mean, hey, kudos for QT selling it the way he sold it, because that's a direct meme right away. Like,
yeah.
The I just shit my pants look on his face. Yeah, he sold that. Yeah, I don't need it either, but not everything on the pay-per-view is going to be a home run, especially whenever you're running almost 5 hours worth of wrestling.
Yeah.
It's not like a takeover where you're getting 5 matches and those 5 matches are all going to be bangers because each one gets 20 to 25 minutes, give or take, and you have a 2.5 hour window to work in. So yeah, but some people are going to love it and eat it up because it's Big Show back in the ring. I know Cam who commented earlier, he's looking forward to that just because he wants to see Big Show in the ring again. So there are people out there that are going to like that and enjoy it.
Trust me, we know firsthand.
Yeah. So, all right, Jay, I guess you'll chime in a little bit if you want to give any of your takes with Dynamite from Wednesday. So far, 2 weeks into the Rampage experiment, obviously last week being the first one ever was tremendous, so you got a good rating there. Britt and Red Velvet had the highest rated segment of the show, so shout out to the women coming through and dominating the show there. Tonight, debut of CM Punk. So again, another huge pop, another huge hit. How do you see them working Dynamite and Rampage together moving forward? Like we saw, for example, Moxley and Garcia main evented tonight. That was set up on Dynamite, based off of Garcia attacking Moxley to start the show. So you had that build there. Red Velvet and Britt, same thing. Wednesday they announced it, Friday it happened. So you're getting, those types of quick builds. Now tonight they already announced the finals for the tag team tournament. The tag team and eliminator will be next Friday night for Rampage. But the week before the show. But if you guys were booking, how would you set it up? Would you have some stuff just strictly announced for Rampage and maybe build a match or two each week from Dynamite to carry over to Rampage? Would you book it as a completely separate show? Like, how would you, if you had the pencils, as Bully Ray likes to say, how would you carry out Rampage to maximize the time that you're getting on Friday nights?
It'd have to be a continuation for me, just to get people to tune in.
I think I'll have one match continuing from Dynamite to Rampage, but the other two have to be newer people.
Yeah.
They have so much talent in this company right now that I'd rather see more people that aren't on Dynamite. You've seen the people on Dynamite Wednesday, get some people that weren't on there on Friday. I would agree with that, Donald. Like if you do one build-up match, I'd be okay with that. But I'd like to see more new people than repeat talent.
And then it has to be a big one just to get people to tune in. So
Well, and that so far the things that you guys are saying so far they've hit 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You didn't see Moxley on. You saw Moxley get taken out on Dynamite on Wednesday, so he really wasn't on the show, and that built up to the main event tonight. So there's your big name for your main event. They did that obviously with Britt and Red Velvet there, and then I think having 3 matches is perfect for the hour of
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Once they start taping these with Dynamite, I think you may be able to do 4, depending on like what's going on that week. But that's the max. I don't need it to be like dark and everything where you have 10 5-minute matches.
No, because between backstage promos and stuff, like tonight, for example, like Christian's backstage promo, while it was a good promo, you could have cut that 2-minute promo out and given that to Jade and Kiera so they have a 4-minute match instead of a 2-minute match.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
When you add that stuff in, like I think the perfect balance or the formula that they at least showed us 2 weeks into this is 3 matches, and then the rest we're going to have with interviews, backstage promos, vignettes, whatever the case may be, fills out the hour perfectly. So I think if they stick to that formula, carry over a match, maybe announce a match a week in advance like they did with the Tag Team Eliminator, and then you build up the other 2 on Dynamite, or you flip it where you announce 2 matches and you build up 1 from Dynamite. Like, to me, that's the recipe for success. Don't get too cute with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Keep it simple. People will tune in because it's an hour. It's a quick hitting, fast paced show that everybody loves so far 2 weeks in because of the formula that they've given us.
Mm-hmm.
Don't change anything up because you want to get cute with it.
I think for me, Mark Henry's interview with the 2 before the main event, that could get cut.
I was thinking the same thing.
I'm okay
with seeing it.
I don't need those 2 talking before the fight. Like, you're about to fight, let's get it on.
So I think, and that's funny that you bring that up, Donald, because I tweeted this out while I was watching it. Two things that I noticed with it, and I guess you could say one's positive and one's negative, but first the somewhat positive one. I like the realistic sports feel that it brings.
Mm-hmm.
Like you interview the contestants before the main event. You see that in UFC. You've seen it in boxing. That adds that realistic sports element to it. The negative for me was, if you knew that you were going to be doing this on the show, then Mark Henry should have been doing this on Dark and on Elevation to find his rhythm, find his cadence, find out what works, what doesn't, get his transitions down, but in and outs, the intros into the segment, like all that stuff would have been better for him coming into this role, because he hasn't done this role before.
Yeah,
he's on Busted Open radio, so yeah, he's talking and is conveying words to an audience and getting points across and everything else, and he does a tremendous job on Busted Open. Like, listening to him on Saturdays is great listen. But it's different in television, and it's different when you're working with wrestling storyline. So him doing it on the fly right now is not saying that he's completely falling on his face, but it's not setting him up for success right off the bat for never doing it before. If you had somebody that was more seasoned, like say you had like Renee Young in that role, or Renee Paquette, just throwing somebody out there that's done that type of work before, I think the flow of it and the transition into it and the questioning and everything else, like I think it would be better than what it's come off the past 2 weeks, because they're comfortable in that role. They know the rhythm. They know how to get in and out of stuff, what to bring up, how to ask the questions. You know what I mean? I think he's learning it and doing it on the fly, so it's coming off, not that he doesn't have confidence in it, but it comes off shaky.
Mic work has never been his strong experience. I think over time it might work out, but yeah, right now it's not.
Yeah,
I'm already over from WWE, so I can care less about those before match interviews.
It does give me a little bit of like the old Saturday Night's Main Event feel when they do it too. Like Stevie brought up, like the legit sport feel. I agree with that too, but just like I kind of like the segment in a way, but it just hasn't clicked yet.
Now tonight's was definitely rushed because they were pressed on time, so you could tell that they were rushing through it. I mean, you know, all 4 men talked, well, all 5 men talked, including Henry, but like it was just one after the other, bang, 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 and then out to the ring for the match. So like there wasn't necessarily that time for it to breathe or like to get a good back and forth between you went out to the ring. Like that really didn't do it. But tonight again, it was more of a time crunch. So who knows? They may end up nixing it after a couple of weeks if they feel it's not working. Like, but like you said, Chris, time wise, and what will help them is when they go taped, you can do those and you can run it back and do more takes because it's taped. With them being live these first couple of weeks, like it's gonna be tough. Do we know when they're gonna start taping Rampage?
I think right now they're live through All Out. Like, so the Friday before All Out will be live again. I'm not sure how many we'll see live after that.
So
I think they have something scheduled. I think they do have another one scheduled live somewhere on the calendar. I just forget the dates.
So is this?
I think New York will be taped, and I think everything in September might be taped.
Is this going to be Rampage and Dark?
Well, right now the setup is Rampage and Dark tape one night, Dynamite and Elevation tape one night. But if they're gonna tape Rampage on Dynamite, like what are you gonna do with Dark and Elevation?
Yeah,
unless you just make them shorter shows now.
Because like you don't want to get to the point where it's like, I mean, you have to establish Rampage first before you can have it like a recorded show with, say, a Dark or an Elevation, so you get people in the seats.
And plus, if you go into Wednesday nights and you're taping Dark, Elevation, Dynamite, and Rampage, that's asking a lot out of a crowd to be into it and be live. I mean,
that's a WWE Super Show.
Yeah, like that. You're asking for a hell of a lot. So
when we went last Wednesday, it was like 7 to 8 was Dark for Dark Elevation. Then 8 to 10 was Dynamite. Then 10 to whatever was Dark Elevation again. So maybe now if you do the first hour, do Dark Elevation there, 2 hours of Dynamite, then Rampage after that. You're still getting the same amount of time that you were putting through, but just shorten up the first 2 shows.
So what, you only get Elevation and Dark, you only have a half hour then?
Honestly, I'd rather see a good, consistent half-hour wrestling show than have 10 5-minute matches the way that we saw. Like, I wasn't invested in any of the matches that we saw on there. I think the only 2 were the Sammy Guevara match and the Lucha Brothers match at the end of the night. All the ones before that, they did nothing for me.
But when you have a roster that's as green as some of those guys are from a working television perspective, having them out there, and yes, granted, Elevation and Dark, you do see a lot of squash matches and enhancement matches where one person's going over strong and everything else, and then you'll get your competitive 2 to 3 matches that are really good. You know, you had like you said, the Lucha Brothers and that, Sammy, the 6-man tag with Dark Order with John Silver and 10 and that, like you'll get those matches to kind of even it out. But I think you need that time so that they can get experience working in front of a live crowd, working in front of the camera, working time matches, so they know like when you do get a call up, like Kiera Hogan's an outlier because she's been on TV with Impact and everything else. But like when you do get a call up for somebody that gets a TV match and they're in a 5 or 6 minute TV match, they know how to work it. They know how to look to the hard cam. They know how to do stuff and to make it fit so that it comes off in that 5 to 6 minute time frame. if you just have these people out there and they're, you know, you're only getting a half hour each for both shows, like it, to me, that's not the best use of your roster to get people the experience that they need so that when they are on Rampage or they are on Dynamite, they shine in the best light possible.
I know why they have both the shows. I don't think they're needed though, especially now that you have. Like, they don't need 4 shows
No.
in a week.
Yeah, but Chris, they're like,
I know how roster heavy they are, but
not taking roster into account. Like Dark and Dark Elevation, if you go on YouTube, like they're getting 150, 250,000 people watching those shows. So
that's
like
good
it's
that
not
following.
It's not well, but yeah. So that's what I mean. Like you're getting 250,000 people to watch Elevation. You know, like I don't know if Impact does 250,000 a week. You know what I'm saying? Like, and this is a YouTube only show, so like they're getting people there. Like to me, that Dante Martin's the perfect example of this. He worked a couple matches on Dynamite early whenever Top Flight came in. Then his brother got hurt, and for the most part, he's been strictly on Dark and Elevation. And then he comes up last weekend on 6-man with Seidel, and he's the star of the match, star of the night. So like, it's beneficial to have that time to get them to work stuff in and feel comfortable and hit their spots, and you know what I mean. I think it could be a detriment to them given how much green TV talent they have. Because when you look up and down that roster, it's not as deep as you think with true TV time wrestlers.
I didn't realize how much local talent they used until
they did use a lot of local talent.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
a lot,
and they do that everywhere they go.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the thing whenever down in when they were doing everything in Jacksonville, like they had brought a lot of the IWC talent down there and used them for a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But down there, it's not local talent. You know, they were just bringing in talent from around the country.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, you saw there was a lot of who was it?
The Lee Kid?
No, who was the one that Jericho called Pineapple Pete?
Oh, okay.
I know him as that. But
yeah.
Yeah, and I apologize. I don't mean to forget his name right now, but it's late at night, and I got like 4 hours of sleep last night.
I want to say Duncan
but you know what I mean? Like there's people like that come in and like they do the right things, they work well and everything else, and then next thing you know, they're getting a match with Jim. It does present opportunities for these guys to get time when you don't. Like, how many people knew who Daniel Garcia was before these past couple weeks?
Not me.
I know him.
You know what I'm saying? Like Dante Martin, perfect example. You know, so like, I mean, how like Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison, like they got signed and they got over because of working those shows. So like, they're, you know what I mean? Like, I just think keeping those shows, given the roster size that they have, but giving those guys experience, and they don't have a PC center and all that other stuff that WWE has, so they got to make the most of it and the best of it. So having that talent travel, you bring in local talent to help out, then that's another way to scout talent that's out there that people may not know about. Mm-hmm. You know, we're at Pittsburgh, so we know the IWC guys, and we know what they can do, you know what I mean? But some of those guys will catch a look from somewhere else, and that might get them a job because they worked, you know, a dark match here and an elevation match here. You know what I mean? So,
I mean, AEW does have a factory system. They have the Nightmare Factory. That's what they're using like as their PC. You know, and
yeah, but not every,
they're doing stuff on YouTube as well with shows, but that's definitely not talent that's ready for TV.
No, and that's, there's not a lot of people that are on Dark and Elevation in the Nightmare Factory either. You know what I'm saying? Like it's different. It's not the same crop of people. Like you don't go from the Nightmare Factory to Dark and Elevation, or you know what I'm saying? Like it's almost like it's separated in a sense.
Not yet. I mean, it could be the way they do it down the road, but at the moment, no.
So, but all right. So we think we think Bryan Danielson will debut in New York. Is that what we're going with?
To keep with the theme, yes.
Yeah, I honestly would be okay if he showed up at the pay-per-view, but I don't know if they're going to take anything away from Punk in that.
Yeah, I think that's taken away.
So, if you're Tony Khan, you're booking All Out. Do you have CM Punk close the show, or do you have CM Punk and Darby open the show?
I was surprised he opened the show today.
I wasn't.
Yeah,
I was expecting to close it.
There was no way you were going to have that crowd sit there for an hour and not get him without them taking over that show. I think that was the smartest move that they did, was putting him out there first.
I agree. I actually thought they were going to do a match and then have him come out.
Because if they would have did anything else, you would have just that entire match or segment, whatever it was, it would have just been overrun with CM Punk chants the entire time.
Before they even did anything, as soon as the show started, they were chanting CM Punk.
Yeah, and there were people that were there that posted on Twitter. I mean, they had a solid CM Punk chant for a good 2.5 minutes. You know how they have the countdown clock before they go live and that up on the screen. I mean, they were going hard, for almost a full 3 minutes before they even went live tonight. So having him come out first to get it out the way was the smartest thing that they did. You gave everybody what they wanted right off the bat, and it was smooth sailing after that for the rest of the night.
I'm going to nitpick on one little thing from it, especially from his debut. Sometimes with the AEW, I feel like their theme music is background noise, and whenever you hear something play in WWE, it comes through. And even with CM Punk tonight, I didn't feel like it was banging.
That's how loud the pop was. They were drowning out the music.
But I get that even whenever it's not a pop like that with AEW. It's not something that tonight I just picked up on. It's something that I've noticed with them.
I don't know. I haven't come across that watching it, but I mean, I'll take that in my next viewing of the show to see if that's the case.
But then again, whose music do you really hear if they're not singing along to it?
You mean just overall here, or recognize?
Not honestly, like Chris says, the music just sounds like background noise until I hear somebody singing along to it. Then I realize, okay.
It's take Orange Cassidy's song. I never pick up on that whenever it hits. And even with Jungle Boy a little bit. But to Jason's point, once the crowd starts singing, Jungle Boy, it's just oh, okay.
Yeah, I've never noticed that watching it, but now that you guys brought it up, I'll definitely look for it to see.
I don't know if that's a production thing that they got, or they got to mic it up better, or what. But
help them out, Chris.
They had the ring mic'd up.
They definitely had the ring mic'd up again.
Well, I mean, for tonight, you would have thought because they were in the United Center, that wouldn't have been an issue because you're in an actual, not that they don't run full scale arenas with good sound production, but that that's a basketball arena. There's music played during basketball games. You know what I mean? The acoustics and everything else was set up perfectly for them tonight. And if that's still something that you noticed, then they got to adjust the decibels on it or whatnot to have it a little more.
When in WWE, when that little scratch noise happens, it's called the personality. You heard that in WWE, and tonight, I just didn't get that.
Honestly, it took me a minute to realize until the thing came up on the graphic that it was CM Punk, because I couldn't.
I didn't recognize that it was called a personality.
No, you didn't
the
know?
first couple of seconds.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that one tonight was just because it was as soon as they heard that scratch, they were loud. They were overly loud to begin with chants, but as soon as they heard that scratch, that place. If you were to, I know they say Seattle is the loudest football stadium to play in decimal wise at certain points, and between them and Kansas City, they go back and forth and battle it. That where they have the decimal meters and they show that on the screen sometimes during the game. But if you were to take a reading of that place during that time, I think they would have drowned out any music, regardless if it was a WWE, AEW, ROH, whoever you wanted to have run at that time. I think that crowd noise would have drowned out anything.
There's certain crowds that I wish I would love to have been in. Tonight would have been one of them. I think that would have been an experience.
But hey, that circles back around to what Punk said to start out his promo. He said, "You guys make me feel like Britt Baker in Pittsburgh," and that being there both nights for her, like to have to experience that, that was something that I won't forget as far as a fan being at a live event. And I've seen a couple things, but that to me, that experience was up there with probably the biggest pop and reaction and just overall noise in a place that I've been to, besides like the Steeler game against New England a couple years ago when Jesse James caught a touchdown that they rolled no catch. Noise wise, that place was rocking and everything else, but that definitely equates to it. So
I don't know how many people that AEW sold in Pittsburgh last week for Rampage. I think I heard around 9,000 was ticket sales. And when they announced tonight, 15,000. So
15,600, I think, was the total number.
I mean, it
was sold out. I'm not sure. Basketball arenas normally are like 16 to 18,000, I believe. So when you factor in, like stage setting and all that, seats that they had to take out, and I'm sure they maximized as much as possible and opened up as many seats as possible for it.
Yeah, I think on Wednesday they said they opened up 300 extra for tonight. So,
yeah,
they got to take out seats and then they add the floor, so it probably bounces out at the end.
All right, so coming down the home stretch here. Thanks for tuning in tonight. So we got 3 on the fence as far as game changers go with CM Punk showing up tonight.
You said 3 on the fence?
Yeah, you three Mockingbirds.
Well, I give Chris a more leaning towards.
Yeah, I just don't think you can't in that moment say that's a game changer. I think you have to wait it out a little bit. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's not, but
social media would disagree with you because everybody everywhere,
people in stupid ass matches sit there and chant, "This is awesome." So I don't. I can give a shit about what the people on social media say.
But it wasn't just the normal AEW people in the AEW feed. I'm just talking like my timeline, regardless, both my personal account and the show's account. Like that's all it was. That's all anybody was talking about, and so like, yeah, I think to me tonight was a game changer. Now, whether or not they take the ball with it and run with it and actually use it to their advantage to elevate them up, we'll see if that's the case. But
so now you're on the fence a little bit too.
No, I'm playing both. I'm giving both sides of the coin. If you ask me, is tonight the night that the game changed for AEW? I would say yes.
Okay, so we discussed this on the show recently. You asked the question, do you consider AEW competition? If you thought a couple weeks ago, no, do you think tonight changes anybody's mind on that?
I never said they weren't competition.
Yeah.
No, because they're still not going head to head with each other. Raw have to go head to head with Dynamite, whatever. Rampage got to go head to head with SmackDown. Until they go head to head, I don't consider this anything competition. Competition is when you go head to head. Look at football, look at baseball, look at sports, head to head.
Okay, but if if you because they're not on the same nights, but
Cam, I did notice about the shop, but
yeah, that's like shop AEW and Pro Wrestling Tees is going to be down till probably September.
That's a once in a lifetime thing. It's never going to happen again. It's once in a lifetime.
Until next month, whenever Daniel Bryan knocks it down.
But back to what was the
competition.
They have to go head to head for him to see it being competition.
Because they're on different nights, and so yes, they're not in direct competition with each other. But if you start seeing Dynamite go from that 800 range to 1.2, if you start seeing them go from 1.2 to 1.5, 1.8, maybe 2 million by this time next year, that's eating into the share or the pie that watches WWE. I'm not saying people won't watch both shows, but you're converting and you're building your audience. So if this time next year, if Dynamite is consistently doing around 2 million a show, which Raw averages around 2 million, SmackDown's around 2 million. There's bumps and obviously highs and lows in there. But I mean, Raw's lowest rating was just a couple of weeks ago. They did 1.4. You don't think Dynamite's going to do more than 1.4 on Wednesday? Or at 1.4 on Wednesday with Punk being announced?
I'll wait and see what tonight's ratings brings before I even guess on Wednesdays.
Because everybody that didn't watch tonight is going to know by going on their phone that he's back and he was there and he's going to be there Wednesday night. So if they missed it on tonight's show, they'll tune in on Wednesday. I can see AEW going from 1.1 up to 1.3, 1.4 for Wednesday night.
I don't know if I'd go that high.
How long do you sustain that? Because
that's
it's not going to be consistent.
No.
That's
and with them, they don't have Raw. You're getting your players every week.
Well, Raw, you're getting a 25-year audience built in that's going to tune in regardless, like no matter how shitty the show is. So
but you're still getting your main eventer. You're still getting your key people every week. AEW takes weeks off unless you're you get Omega every week. But you get you don't get week to week storylines. You'll get every other or somewhere around there.
I see what you're talking about.
Yeah, but that's also a brand split thing, right? So if that's also a brand split thing, right? So if the rosters were combined and you only had Raw, are you going to get those same people every single week? Because you didn't back in the day. You didn't get them every single week on Raw.
No.
So you know what I mean? Like if you're going to see Roman every week on SmackDown because that's his
roster size.
You know what I mean? Yeah, the roster size. So Orton just took a 7-week break, but I mean, besides that, you see Orton every week, you see Drew every week, you see Lashley every week. You know what I mean? So I get what you're saying with that for Dynamite. But yeah, it's just, what are they going to do with the ball? They firmly have possession of the ball now. What are you going to do to build on it? And how consistently can you be while running with that ball to not only establish new viewers, but keep the audience you have and continue to grow it is going to be interesting a year from now when we look back. Because
now, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with the ball. I don't see, to Donald's point of being direct competition, I don't see that happening for a long time if it ever really happens. Because I think, they don't want to compete with other programs on Monday night. I think they're going to be happy with that Wednesday spot.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, maybe I could see Rampage being moved up to 8 to 9 or 9 to 10. But and I don't even know if I see that anytime soon.
No, not at all. I think Rampage is going to stay at 10 for a while.
Yeah.
Here's one of the first litmus tests for them with this, right? With consistency and with audience size and everything else. First litmus test, beginning of the year. AEW Dynamite goes from TNT to TBS.
Yeah, both shows.
Both shows will be on TBS Wednesday and Friday night, minus your specials, that your quarterly specials that you talked about earlier, Chris. You'll get those on TNT.
Mm-hmm.
So come January, does the audience that they have now, which is around that 800 to 1.1 range, does that carry over? And is that number there January? And then come June, have they built on it? And then the following January, where's it at? Like, that's going to be that's the first litmus test, is where you at when you switch networks, even though it's under the umbrella, but when you switch the channel, because TBS they could own TBS. There's nothing else on TBS that they'll compete with.
I can tell you the last time I tuned into TBS.
Well, there you go. Like I said, that's going to be
WCW Saturday night.
6:05.
I mean, I watch TBS. I like sitcoms that are on there, but there's nothing other than repeats on it.
Just March Madness. March Madness is the only thing I watch for.
Maybe the occasional MLB game that's on there too.
So do you think you'll have anything leading into that? So to just be like an episode of Frasier leading into
Big Bang Theory is what they repeat all the time in prime time. Yeah.
Now, if they wanted, I don't know if they would do this, but you have Dynamite live on Wednesday. You could run Dynamite, repeat it on Friday, and lead it into Rampage at 10.
Good
Same thing
idea.
with Rampage on Wednesday too.
Yeah.
You'll get it. I don't think you'll get both live shows on Wednesday night. They'll keep the Wednesday Friday theme. I don't see them changing that, but I mean you could run that. Fridays during March Madness are the only times that Rampage will get bumped, because that's the first weekend of March Madness. You have games all the way through till midnight, so. Who knows? Maybe they'll schedule the last game on TBS to end for 10 o'clock, and then they'll go to Rampage, and you'll have to watch the late night games on True TV or CBS or TNT with March Madness. But that January is the first litmus test. What's that audience size? Can you carry it over from TNT to TBS because you've been on TNT since you started, and then how do you build on top of that? Because I think they've done a great so far for being as new as they are, to have, almost 1 million people watch each week. And there's spikes and obviously lows in between there, but averaging 800, 850 to 1 million each week for something that's just coming up on, it'll be 2 years old in October.
Mm-hmm.
So where are they at? 2 years, brand new company, you're averaging almost 1 million people a week.
They'll be in their 100th episode soon.
Yeah, in 4 years, so if you're gonna look at it in 2 year increments, like if you're doing 1 million in your first 2 years, come 4 year mark, are you up at 2 million? Are you at 1.5 million? Like, and we know how viewership isn't as much as it's not relied upon as much as it was back in the day, because the way people consume TV is way different nowadays. So there's DVR viewership, there's all that streaming, the whole 9 yards. So like, what are they? That 1.1, does that count DVR watching into it, or is that just live as the show's on air? Like,
yeah, I don't know how they take those now.
So there's an interesting question. A year from now, where do you hope that they're at? Like, what do you hope that their consistent rating will be?
A year from now,
yeah,
I would say if they're consistently at like 1.4, 1.5.
I agree. I'd like to see them around 1.5.
To me, wrestling's on a decline altogether as a whole.
Viewership wise,
Yeah.
you're in that Disco Inferno camp. I mean, he brings up good points with it, and I don't know if anybody has said Disco Inferno and brings up good points in the same sentence, but I just did. But no, it's the hottest, most exciting time for wrestling, but yet it's being watched by the least amount of people, and that's Disco's
like
point.
you said, Steve. People are watching it differently too.
Yeah,
and that so yeah, like I don't know if we ever will truly get an accurate viewership rating like we used to back in the day. You know, but what I'd like to see, consistently, if you give me like 1.3 to 1.5 each week a year from now, then I think they're well on their way to being established and keeping it moving along.
And the crazy thing in here in this conversation is, even with WWE, we never factor in all the other foreign countries that watch. We only talk about the WWE audience. So like AEW just started on India this past week. So there's a whole other country, a huge country, to grow the audience with. So, they could already be where we want them to be. But
you figure they're on what's the big one in the UK?
Are they on Sony
or no?
Sky.
They
Sky Sports.
They replaced WWE on Sky Sports.
Yeah.
Sky Sports took AEW. So and that's the ESPN of the UK. You know what I mean? That's the TSN of Canada. So yeah, when you factor in globally, what are you doing each week? We get so fixated on what the numbers are here in the States. Obviously, it's a bigger number, and those people are watching it, 2, 3, 4 in the morning. So yeah, I get that, but
we've discussed this before too, where a few years ago, TNA was beating WWE in the UK. TNA was going over there and recording shows for weeks on a time, and they were selling out the O2 Arena.
Right. Yeah, no, I think, for not all of their signings have been must-see TV right away, and some people would argue that they shouldn't have signed some of the people that they have. But to me, when you get a CM Punk back in pro wrestling, and the reaction tonight, legitimized the need to sign him as far as being a big, WWE would have loved to have brought CM Punk back.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure.
There's a lot of merch to sell with that.
Man, they would have threw that everywhere.
So
they would have spoiled it though. They would have told you he was coming back.
Well, yeah, and AEW didn't directly tell us, but they told us. So, but no, for them being the company as far as age-wise that they are and everything else, they've done a good job of highlighting who they've highlighted so far. They've built up young stars. They built up homegrown talent. Now, what are you going to do with it? Now let's see where you can really take it, because your foundation has been set, at least in my eyes. So now let's see what you do with building the rest of the house.
Yeah.
Will they ever be, take over WWE? Who knows? You're talking a 30-year head start compared to, you know what I mean? And an even bigger, when you factor in 80s, that's a really far gap to try and close in a short amount of time. But building that foundation, I think they've done an excellent job with doing that in the 2-year period that they've been on. So now let's see what you do with adding on to the foundation and building out the rest of the house.
Do I think that they can defeat WWE anytime soon? Absolutely not. CM Punk said it in the pipe bomb. Vince McMahon's going to make money despite himself. If this keeps like Vince keeps running WWE for the foreseeable future, no, AEW will never catch up. If for any reason WWE gets sold, like we constantly see rumors on social media.
Hey, way to spoil it! Way to spoil the teaser for tomorrow, you jagoff.
I could easily see a company ruining WWE, and
what a dumb mark. Unbelievable.
That is the name of the show. So,
all right, with that, I'm good with how we covered the show tonight. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate the interaction. Jason, go get a new WWE ice cream bar. I'm going to keep on searching for WWF ice cream bars.
We going to talk about Ms. and Mrs. too?
All right.
The Road to Redemption or whatever the fuck that shit was.
They announced that a couple weeks ago.
Pre-production meeting tomorrow. We were going to task you with providing weekly updates. that we took a vote. Actually, we didn't take a vote. I'm just telling you, as part of your contractual obligation, you will have to give us a weekly Road to Redemption. I don't even know if that's the right title.
That sounds all right.
You will give us the weekly Brandy and Cody events from each episode each week. It'll be a new segment on the podcast.
He won't watch it because it's an AEW show, but that is a show he would watch.
Absolutely, he would watch that, no doubt. All right, thanks all you marks for tuning in tonight. Appreciate you guys riding with us with another Dumb Marks After Dark special edition. Again, tune in live tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for your favorite Saturday brunch bunch, where we'll cover our normal segments and everything. Once again, bell to bell, we'll dive into WWE SummerSlam and NXT TakeOver. We'll give our predictions on those shows. Maybe some other quick wrestling talks and final thoughts to wrap up that show tomorrow. Before we get out of here, email the show, dumbmarkspod@gmail.com. Follow us on all social medias. You can't head over to Pro Wrestling Tees to buy a shirt because the fucking shirt crashed. So when that's up and running, head over to prowrestlingtees.com/dumbmarks. Pick up some of our merch here. Support the show. We love you guys. We'll give shout outs live on air. I got a shout out for tomorrow's show from another Mark that purchased a shirt. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in. And then in about 10 and a half, 11 hours from now, we'll see y'all tomorrow morning. And with that, you can catch us around the way.